everyone, this is another episode of Golda's Girls, and today we have again a very interesting guest, and her name is Parmis Javan. So, who are you, Parmis? I met you on Instagram. I saw that you were advocating for Israel. So that's how we got in touch. So tell us who you are, what you do in life.
So hi Carla, thank you for inviting me to your show. I look forward to talking to you in this half hour or so. So my name is Parmis Javan. You correctly said it. I'm 26 years old. I was born Muslim, but I converted to Judaism because of my father. He used to be a Jew, but because we all know that in the Middle East, non-Muslims were like second class, were treated unfortunately as second class citizens, so like a dhimmi status. That's
Really?
why he and his family went and took the easier route and decided to hide their Jewish identity and just assimilate, unfortunately, which really costed my ability to learn Hebrew and connect with the Jewish tradition. It's something I'm learning it about myself and from research and talking to other people in our community. Some other facts about me is that I'm a doctor. I hope to work in the US soon. So right now I have a temporary job, but I hope to get a more permanent one. And on the side, I enjoy speaking up for Israel, doing Hasbara,
Yeah.
because first of all, it's a topic I'm extremely interested in. So I did quite in-depth research on it throughout the past 7 or 8 years. I read both sides of the conflict to see what was the claims, what's going on, and I reached the conclusion that Israel was and they were correct, and they're doing their best to, and especially in every conflict, especially now, they're doing their best to, minimize civilian harm, and also protecting their own and people, their own interests. And also I do this. The reason why I got into advocacy for Israel and doing it professionally now, is that the mainstream media, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about the hostages. They try to spin the story to make it more pro-Hamas sort of, more on the Palestinian side. For example, like BBC the other day, they were saying that hostages on both sides.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
quite
You,
shocking.
I interrupt you here because you have the beautiful story. You study in England because you're born in Iran, right? Or you're not born in Iran?
So I was born in Iran. I moved to Australia when I was a baby, six
Oh, yeah.
months old.
Yeah.
And then I went to England for my university degree. So I lived there for nearly 7 years. So I could see in those 7 years that anti-Semitism just became worse
Yeah.
after each, conflict. But October 7th was another level. It just, unfortunately, the government, although they're sort of helping Israel, they're punishing people who don't condone the Palestinian Hamas side and support Israel. Like, for example, I have a friend who's Iranian as well. He's been arrested more times by
Mm-hmm.
the UK
Mm-hmm.
police than the police in Iran, because he holds signs saying that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they don't like it when you say that. There's not much freedom of speech there. So yeah, so that's just one example. So yeah,
Yeah, but you were working there. That's what you told me as a doctor.
yes, yes.
And because you said, tell us about that.
So working, so I was a government employee, so I wasn't like a diplomat or anything, but I worked for the National Health Service. It is a government-owned organization, so technically I was a state employee.
Mhm.
And I was working for them for a few months, half a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, I'm quite surprised how long I lasted with them. I'm normally a very flexible person, but I think I have to tell the whole context of the story. So, literally on the second hour of my work,
Mm-hmm.
I was pulled aside by my managers or HR. They were saying, we have something extremely serious happen. And I was like, what's happening? I've not even talked to any patients. I thought I might have done a mistake or something. They said, no, it's not like that. It's your social media. And I'm like, what did I write? That was maybe I was freaking out. I was really scared. I was like, okay. And then they said, show us. And I scrolled down, they said this post, and I was like, what? It's a post that said that Hamas is an Islamic death cult. It is. I mean, it is. It's nothing else. Hamas is a Islamic death cult who wants to role is to only commit atrocities and try to destroy the state of Israel. And that I was getting punished for condemning Hamas.
Yeah.
And they were accusing me that's being very racist and Islamophobic. Islamophobia is a fake term that was made from the um, Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt to silence any dissident opinions of all the atrocities they do, so no one can speak up. And they accused me of that, and it just went downhill. So every day they were making up new excuses. So one time they pulled me again in their office. They said, oh, you must have a mental illness for just posting about Israel. I said, no, I don't. That's not something I like to post about. And it got to the point where I would just talk back to them because I was like, now they're like harassing me and bullying me. So I would say maybe you guys are the not well people who support Hamas. And it all makes sense later on after I left the job. Well, they actually
They left. You
in
left the job or they fired you?
and so they fired me, but it's a bit complicated. So
Right.
they did an investigation. They fired me technically. It's the outcome was that you're fired, but I luckily had put in my resignation letter just in the last minute. So
Okay, good.
it's both. So it's a bit complicated, but that's in a nutshell. And after I left it, or they fired me, it was both the same outcome. I wasn't going to continue. And I later found out that Qatar is
Mm-hmm.
Qatar owns most of the UK, owns most of the public utilities. They don't really own it, but they paid for it, so technically they do have a very huge say on it.
Yeah.
And HR department was they were I had no problems with Arabs, so in case this is like I know this is recorded, I have no problems with Arabs. These are Arabs who support jihad and they deny anti-Semitism, and they were telling me that anti-Semitism is a weapon to, like for Israel, and they were saying complete like I don't want to say these words, but they were like Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
They're true Hamas supporters, and um they were so they were probably hired by Qatar, or definitely the hospital or the trust, which is like a group of hospitals, was definitely Qatar had some assets in it or had some stakes in it. So yeah, so that all makes sense because Qatar, is an enemy in disguise. I
Mm-hmm.
think the mask is off, but some people still believe that Qatar is neutral, is a good is a good mediator. And I'm like, no, no, Qatar is telling Hamas to keep the hostages. He wants to keep it so that, like to continue waging war to, they only want a one state solution, which is
We,
Palestine
we
instead of Israel.
know,
We go from
we know is not allowed to live there. Yeah, it's unbelievable what people believe, especially in the West, how the stories are really taken as truth. Yeah. So,
mm.
and when did you start to become an advocate for Israel? And when did
So
you?
for years, that's a great question, Carla. Thank you for asking it. So I became okay, so my professional advocacy started late last year, but beforehand, for years since 2017 actually, I would give lectures. Like it was casual. It wasn't like a part of the degree. It was just casual lectures about your someone would do a topic about this politics, this global event. I chose mine on the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I would teach in the sort of the sessions about that anti-Semitism has no place in society. Jews are not are an ethnic group that, like everyone else, deserves to live peacefully, be respected, and we should stop this terrorism. I used to be one of those people who's very naive and think the two-state solution was feasible. This was before October 7,
Me too.
and I actually believed in it until October 7. I even believed in it after the 2021 war and the 2018 sort of when the Gazans came in and tried to invade from the fence, but they didn't. So after all this, and even after 2014, where there was another flare up, and so I was one of those people, we can live together, the Palestinians can have a state. I don't believe that now, so I'm just saying it retrospectively in case someone cuts
Yeah.
this interview for context.
And
And
let me cut here. What is also a thing is if you don't have that hate and if you don't have that kind of aggression in you and you don't have those ideas, you do not easily recognize it and say, yeah, indeed, there's more needed.
mm,
A lot of people can they cannot believe or they think, oh, if you do like this, you must be very frustrated. They cannot believe that people have such an ideology. And I see that
yeah,
too.
some people they say yeah, the DEI, they say that like certain ethnicity and background, like brown, black people, anyone who they think is oppressed, LGBT, they can never do wrong because they're always the victim. And any like, atrocity they do is just their reaction to it.
Yeah, yeah, and that is weakening people. If you believe you're a victim, you don't take your
Mm,
power, and you give your power away. And if you are a victim,
yeah,
one, you need healing, and then you need to become empowered. It's that's ridiculous. I agree with you in that. So, do you have also an advice for Jews in the diaspora? Because you see the difference in thinking, right? In how, yeah, there's such a division among us in the diaspora as well in thinking.
definitely. So
Guys,
for example,
something.
definitely. So one of my favorite ways to answer this question is to talk about Jewish students on college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't go to the American ones, so like I haven't been to Columbia or NYU or Harvard, but I can talk about the UK ones. It's a very similar situation, Oxford, Cambridge. So I would see, I would talk to students like go to their sort of their groups and societies, and even at Chabad, I went to it once. They would say we are too scared to stand up for Israel because we're going to get cancelled,
Yeah.
and people may attack us. The implications are severe. I said, you know what? Keep fighting. Don't let them silence you because this is what I like to use the analogy of Iran. So people in Iran before the revolution, they used to say, oh, we're not going to so anytime someone like did something that was a bit undemocratic, people would be like they wouldn't question it because they'd be like, oh well, we live in a democracy. It'll just, it's okay. And a lot of like speech was like not silence, but was really dampened down.
Mm-hmm.
And my analogy is that if Jews in the diaspora, like the students, they don't call out the anti-Semitism or
Mm-hmm.
call out the different, like, horrible events. I went to a horrible event. We protested outside, if you look at my Instagram, about education for like intifada, so training people how to become terrorists. So I was out there
Where was it?
and
In
we
America
were,
or in England? In America or in England?
this was in America yesterday.
Oh,
So I went there.
oh
So
wow.
to call them out, we went to protest last night in the snow, but I didn't care about the snow. We had to shut it down. So my advice for example, Jewish students and Jews in diaspora is to never stop fighting for what is right. Stand up for your values. Call anti-Semitism out. The way we can defeat it, or at least sort of minimize it is to take these, anti-Semites through the legal way. So, for example, one of my friends, she suffered discrimination, anti-Semitism in NYU. This was in 2019. She it completely affected her both physically and emotionally and career-wise. So she took the legal route, managed to successfully not only sue NYU, but change the law. Change
Wow.
the law with Trump using Title VI to say that, like before it used to be like you were allowed, very legally speaking, and you were allowed to discriminate against Jews because they only viewed Jews as a religion, and you could discriminate in the religion.
Yeah, that's such
But
an
then they
event.
came.
Yeah.
I know it was quite shocking, but then she, with the help of Trump in his first term, she managed to change it that it's also an ethnicity. So anti-Semitism now became, outlawed completely. So my advice is, like just to call out anti-Semitism, take it the legal route. Don't get into physical violence because that other side, they're just going to film it or use that as evidence. See, look at their side. They're the violent ones. They call us violent. Look at them. They attack us. And like, stand together. People may have differences between Democrats, Republican, Labour Party, conservatives, but like we need to, for this issue, like, and anti-Semitism is a bipartisan issue on both sides, and they need to be tackled,
Yeah.
and we need to call it out.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I so agree with you, and you sound very like determined. Was the and I like that because a lot of people need to hear that. Did you go yesterday? Was that also where Shai Davidai was? I saw a little thing of that. Was that
yes.
you were?
Shai Davidai, Lizzie Savetsky, and there was an
Yeah,
IDF
see that?
soldier, Stav Cohen. He was there. We were all there. Like we were non-violent, so we just did speeches, and we held a placard sign showing what the Intifada was. Like I held a placard sign, and we were just like, as those people were, as those Hamas supporters or useful idiots, they were coming in and out of the like the lecture. We would we would just call them out, and obviously they would, a lot of them would say the same things. We all like they were not going to talk to us. They just swore at us. But yeah, we called it out and we made them uncomfortable, and hopefully, like this makes them reconsider doing something because
Yeah,
every time like they do something, we're going to be there in protest. So they might as well just stop it. It's legal, completely legal. You are standing in the street in the whole in the sidewalk, and they can't tell us to shut it down because it's like
it's right.
freedom of speech here.
Right. Yeah, there's so much misinformation. I think that's
Mm,
really and that a lot of people that I see on social media that are sincerely concerned about the number of dead people in Gaza, right? They are very much concerned about that, which is a good concern because if we don't care anymore at other people
definitely.
die, but you know what? They believe the numbers given by Hamas. That's
Hamas Health Ministry.
never the truth. And then the biggest part of the dead people are terrorists that have been murdered by
Mm,
the IDF. So there is so much misinformation
definitely.
that makes me fear for the future. And then so many
Mm,
Jews, like you just said, don't dare to speak out and up. I noticed that too. I was leading a group and people, no, they go close their thing, don't want to go anywhere. And wow, powerful. You're really an inspiration. And so, but you
thank
were
you.
in the beginning, you said your father was originally Jewish, converted Islam, and your mother, what
Yeah.
about her?
Mom was a Muslim, but we are actually like non-practicing, so like we don't do any of the we didn't do any of the like the Ramadan or the hijab or the Sharia
So you
sort of
feel
things. And
really, you really feel connected to the Jewish people. You really made a choice. And didn't you say you
yes,
converted? So, wow, that's
yes.
powerful. Yeah, you are a combination of two. There are several. There are several people. Yeah, and that's interesting. You follow a calling. I can see that, and that is wonderful. Now you have
Thank you so much for your nice
yes,
words.
yeah, of course. And that's one of the reasons I saw your Instagram. I was like, wow, that's nice. I will put the Instagram, and if you have other things, of course, down in the description later when it get published. So you had also a message to the families of the remaining hostages, which is so like horrible to go through.
Yes, so this morning I was at a hostage rally in NYC in New York City every week for the past 16 months now. That's quite
Wow.
shocking, actually.
I'm
We go out in Central Park and
Mhm.
we hold a rally to advocate for their release. So for example, today not only did we say like bring them home, everyone home, we also like talked about any birthdays the hostages, had, any significant events happen, milestones, any messages they did. And for example, one of the hostages who their family members, they come in and speak, the loved ones come in and speak, and they talk about them, and they say they're more than just a hostage. So like they shouldn't just be known as just
Yeah.
someone who's held in the dungeons of Hamas, but like they talk about them, and we sing Hatikva, so that's the Israeli national anthem, which
Yeah.
means hope. And and normally like we go on a march in like Central Park,
Mhm.
but the weather was too severe, so we just, congregated in one area. But it's very peaceful. And when I see people across the different like major cities globally, standing up for the hostages, it brings me hope, and it continues and inspires me to, continue advocating for them,
Mhm.
continue making videos about them. So I make videos about the hostages, about their personal story, and I do my own voiceover for it and add pictures and footage to, humanize them. They're not just someone who's like a hostage. They shouldn't be like known as, oh, when you say this person's name, oh, they are a hostage. No, they are a human, and Hamas, committed a war crime, and they took them and abused them for, like how many number of days. So yeah, so my advice to the hostages families, especially, and the hostages themselves, because they have seen our protests in
Yeah.
captivity. They either heard it on a radio or they saw it, and if Hamas allowed them, and is to, never lose hope. We are with you, and a whole nation of Israel, Jewish diaspora, and allies, and our allies is all standing with you. And we're here until the last hostage. And when we say until the last hostage, we really mean it.
Yeah.
So until that number reaches from 76 to 0 every week, we'll be going week in, week out to advocate. And also another advice I give is to write to your local representatives to, talk about the hostage issue. For example, when I was in the UK, I would write to my local MP, who actually, surprisingly, after many months of writing to him, he actually brought up the topic of Avinatan, no Algamani's girlfriend, that he's got British ties, he needs to be released. And so actually he brought up in Parliament, which was quite, surprising. But these are the ways to do it. And also like never stop talking about it, because the mainstream media won't. And the other side definitely won't. The other side calls the terrorist prisoners, calls the prisoners hostages, which they're not. They're prisoner. They forfeited their freedom,
Convicted
and we have to do it.
and many of them have a lot of
So
blood in their hands. It's like
I
no
put myself
fair.
in my shoes.
Yeah. Okay, so every session we do, we have anti-Semite of the week. So which one is yours?
My anti-Semite of the week is Owen Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Owen Jones is a British journalist. He calls himself a journalist, but okay. He's a Hamas propaganda puppet who, he's said many times that the prisoners in Israel, they are hostages, and, Israel is a terrorist state, and he just spreads lies. He's like almost like Mehdi Hassan.
Oh, wow.
And ironically, he's so stupid, he's gay, and he supports Hamas. He doesn't realize many people I've told him, including me. I've tweeted to him, I've messaged him, I said, Hamas would murder you because you're gay. And he's like, no, they wouldn't. It's a resistance group. Yeah, he's hates Jews, hates Israel, and he's anti-Zionist, and anti-Zionist means anti-Semite. So
Actually,
that's my anti-Semite of the week.
terrible, that kind of people. I have this time the choice for Candace Owens, who I respected a lot in the past, and she changed drastically and dramatically. Even her own
Mhm.
father-in-law publicly apologized for her ways of thinking. He made a beautiful statement, and she
Yeah.
continues and continues. It's like too crazy for words. The blood libels get a new code. It is really coming from anti-Semitic.
Mm.
It's not even like ignorance. It's really like very supportive of anti-Semitic ideas, the blood libels, and all the other.
The blood libels.
Yeah,
She would say, like, I remember one time she said that you know Jews killed Jesus, Jews drink the blood, which is a
yeah,
very
yeah,
old.
yeah. And even the discussion that the Romans actually did it, not the Jews. So that it's just too silly. Well, let's go quickly to a nicer. What is your hero of the week?
My hero of the week is Shy David I.
Yeah,
So yes, he was at the protest. In case you don't know who he is, he's an NYU professor. He bravely, sorry, not NYU, Columbia professor.
yeah,
I think he
yeah,
teaches business. And his employer and the university, like, I remember during the Tent Fathers, I call them the Tent Father protests in earlier in 2024, they allow him to come in, they stop access with his card, so he would bravely fight with the HR and the faculty,
yeah,
and he has his own podcast, Here I Am with Shy David I.
yeah,
That's one of my favorite podcasts.
yeah.
And yeah, I just find him he's very brave despite the enormous pressure he's been put on by, his employer. They've done absolutely nothing to help him. But then the faculty will see they'll see their karma because Trump has said that he's taking anti-Semitism seriously on the campuses. And if these people are not US citizen, then they may be deported, and if they are, then they will lose their jobs or something will happen. So it's karma is going to get them. So I'm hopeful about that.
Yeah, that would be so necessary, right? It is crazy that he's not even banned. I think he is like banned entirely to come into the campus. It's like he is the criminal. Well, I have I have another example of heroes, at actually three. As you probably did too, you saw the heartbreaking pictures of the three men that were released that were so skinny and so thin. And that's the same in a way, but horrible. And just, that they barely got to eat. And then the
Mm.
dramas about all the food that needs to come in Gaza that is stolen by Hamas. And oh, people are starving. Well, Hamas looks very well fed, as all the Palestinians you see in the news too. And these poor guys, it's horrible. It reminded me so much of Holocaust pictures. If you see how they look,
Definitely, it was something about Auschwitz survivor.
I think that the tactic of, yeah, of the tactic of the strategy of Hamas is that they brought the best hostages first, and now we get more and more,
Mm.
and then at the end, the dead bodies that they killed. Yeah. Well, I thank you
So
so much
tragic.
for your great message, and I wish you a
Thank
lot
you so much.
of luck for what you're doing, because I know you will be more. You have that fire in you. And keep in touch. Let us hear more. And if we can help you in one way, shape, or form, and that you get your job because you need to work as a medical doctor. Are you a pediatrician? What is your direction?
So I really want to do pediatrics as a children's doctor, and I hope one day that I can go join the IDF as a medic, or at least volunteer for at a Israeli hospital. They just need me to work for a year in the US.
You know what?
back in my game.
You're so driven. It's fantastic. I really applaud you. And thank you so very much for spending some time with us and for your
You're
beautiful.
welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me,
Absolutely.
Clara. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.